The rain fell like knives from the dark sky. At the giant iron gates of Jason Dressel's mansion, two old figures lay collapsed in the mud. Their suitcase was wide open, spilling faded photographs and torn letters into the dirty water. Jason stepped out of his shining black car. His expensive shoes splashed into the puddles. His eyes froze on the heartbreaking scene. Why were these two elderly people lying helpless outside his mansion? What brought them here on this stormy night to the gates of the richest man in town? Before we move forward, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? And don't forget to like and subscribe to Black and Wronged for more heart-touching stories. Let's get started. Jason took a step closer. Under the streetlight, he saw the old woman's silver hair stuck to her face, wet and cold. The old man tried to shield her with his weak arms, though his own body was shaking. Their clothes were torn, their shoes worn out. Jason felt something he had not felt in years, unease. These were not beggars who wandered the streets. Their suitcase carried family pictures, wedding rings tied in a small cloth, and letters that spoke of love and loss. These were people with a story. He bent down and asked in a low voice, "Why are you here? Who sent you to my gates?" The old man slowly lifted his face. His eyes, filled with both pride and pain, locked onto Jason's. What he whispered next made Jason's heart skip a beat. Rain kept pouring, hitting the ground like drums. Jason leaned closer, trying to catch the old man's faint words. "My name is Chet Holmgren," the man whispered, coughing hard. "And this is my wife, Jewel. We once had a home, a family, but now we have nothing." Jason's brows tightened. Something about those names pulled at his memory, like a half-forgotten dream. He glanced at the photographs floating in the puddle. Jewel as a young bride, Chet in a worker's uniform, smiling with pride. "Why here?" Jason pressed, his voice sharp but his chest heavy. Chet's lips trembled. He lifted a shaking hand and pointed at Jason's mansion. "This was once our land." Jason froze. His heart thudded louder than the storm. Jason's face tightened. His eyes shot back to the mansion that towered behind him, its windows glowing with golden light. The old man's words echoed in his mind. "This was once our land." Jason straightened up, rain dripping from his sharp jawline. "Impossible," he muttered, shaking his head. "I bought this estate years ago. It was abandoned. Nobody lived here." But Chet's eyes, tired yet fierce, told another story. "We lived here long before it became your palace," he said slowly. "My father built the first house on this soil. Jewel and I raised our children here. Until..." His voice broke. Jason's chest grew tight. Something stirred in him, a buried memory. As a boy, he remembered hearing stories about a family forced to leave there. Chet lowered his eyes, too tired to speak. Jewel, shivering in the storm, gently pushed the old suitcase toward Jason. Its rusty lock had already snapped, open from the fall. Jason knelt down, curious, and pulled the flap aside. Inside lay pieces of a life long forgotten. Black and white photographs of a young Chet and Jewel on their wedding day, smiling with hope. Letters written in neat, fading ink, some stained with tears. A child's drawing of a small house under the sun. Jason's fingers froze as he picked up one letter. The words blurred in the rain, but one line burned into his mind. "We will come back home one day." He looked at the couple again. Their eyes were hollow but still carried the weight of love, of memories, of loss. Jason felt something heavy press against his chest. He had built an empire of wealth, but here was a treasure richer than all his gold, a family's history, drowning in the rain. "Then," Jewel whispered with trembling lips, "Jason, we didn't come here by mistake. We came for you." Jason's heart skipped. "For me?" Jason's breath caught. "For me?" The words echoed in his head louder than the storm. He searched Jewel's face, but her eyes were half closed, fighting against weakness. Chet leaned forward, gripping Jason's arm with surprising strength. "You don't remember, do you? You were just a boy, maybe 5 or 6. Your mother, she brought you here once. We shared bread, we shared stories. She said this place had a soul, a history. Our history." Jason froze, memories stirring like ghosts. A dim picture flashed in his mind, his mother's gentle hand guiding him through muddy fields, laughter echoing from strangers who welcomed them warmly. Could it be this couple? Rain pounded harder, but Jason barely noticed. His empire, his success, all of it suddenly felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. He swallowed hard. "You're saying..." "We are connected?" His voice shook between disbelief and fear. Chet's hand slipped from Jason's arm. The old man coughed harshly, his body trembling. Jewel pressed closer to him, whispering prayers under her breath. Jason's heart pounded. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. Then in the silence between the thunder, Chet whispered, "Jason, your mother never left us. She left you. A secret." Jason's eyes widened. A secret. His throat tightened as he stared at the trembling old man. The storm raged on, but in that moment, everything felt still. "What secret?" Jason demanded, his voice low but urgent. Chet's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Jewel held his hand, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. Slowly, Chet pointed toward the mansion, his fingers shaking. "Behind those walls lies more than your fortune. There's a box, wooden, carved with roses. Your mother left it there before she died." Jason's heart skipped. His mother? He hadn't spoken of her in years. She had worked herself to the bone just to raise him, then passed away before seeing him succeed. He had buried the pain, building wealth as armor. Jewel's voice cut through the rain. "She trusted us. She said one day her son would need to know the truth." Jason's chest tightened. Why had no one told him? What was in that box? Chet's voice cracked. "If you open it, you will know why fate brought us back." Jason's pulse thundered. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside his heart. Jason's eyes widened. A secret. His throat tightened as he stared at the trembling old man. The storm raged on, but in that moment, everything felt still. "What secret?" Jason demanded, his voice low but urgent. Chet's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Jewel held his hand, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. Slowly, Chet pointed toward the mansion, his fingers shaking. "Behind those walls lies more than your fortune. There's a box, wooden, carved with roses. Your mother left it there before she died." Jason's heart skipped. His mother? He hadn't spoken of her in years. She had worked herself to the bone just to raise him, then passed away before seeing him succeed. He had buried the pain, building wealth as armor. Jewel's voice cut through the rain. "She trusted us. She said one day her son would need to know the truth." Jason's chest tightened. Why had no one told him? What was in that box? Chet's voice cracked. "If you open it, you will know why fate brought us back." Jason's pulse thundered. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside his heart. Jason rushed inside the mansion, his wet shoes leaving muddy prints on the marble floor. His staff looked at him in confusion, but he ignored their questions. His mind was racing, his heart pounding with every step. A box carved with roses? Left by my mother? He searched room after room, memories colliding with the sound of the storm outside. At last, in the deepest corner of the mansion's old library, his eyes caught something half buried beneath dusty books. A wooden box, its lid marked with faded rose carvings. Jason's hands trembled as he pulled it free. Dust coated his fingers, but his pulse quickened. This wasn't just a box, it was his mother's final gift. He knelt on the cold floor, staring at it, afraid to open yet unable to resist. When he lifted the lid, the hinges creaked like a whisper from the past. Inside lay letters tied with a red ribbon, photographs of a smiling young woman, his mother, and a small key wrapped in cloth. Jason's breath shook. Why would his mother leave a key? What did it unlock? Before he could think further, a voice called from behind him. "Jason, don't open it here." He spun around, eyes wide. Jason turned sharply. It was Jewel, standing weakly in the doorway, rainwater still dripping from her dress. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held a strength that shook him. "That key unlocks more than a door. It unlocks your mother's last wish." Jason swallowed hard and untied the ribbon. The first letter was addressed to him, in handwriting he hadn't seen since childhood. His mother's words spilled into the silent room. "My son, if you're reading this, it means you've built the life I prayed for you. But remember, wealth without kindness is emptiness. I leave you this key, not to treasure, but to a promise. Take care of those who fall, as others once cared for me." Tears blurred Jason's eyes. He looked at Jewel and Chet, realizing they weren't strangers. They were his mother's friends, her protectors. Maybe even the reason he had survived poverty as a boy. Jason rose, clutching the key. In that moment he knew his mother's legacy wasn't money, but compassion. As the storm cleared, sunlight poured through the windows. Jason whispered, "From today, no one will be left forgotten." If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments, what's one act of kindness you'll never forget? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Black and Wronged for more heart-touching stories.